But let me ask you a question. If there's one last question, right? You're a smart guy, right? If there was one piece of advice you could give to Donald Trump, if there's one thing you could change, what do you think that would make him even more effective?
One thing that he would change.
What style? One is there anything that you would change or no?
Here's what I would tell you. Okay. So for me, it is very hard to give advice on personality that's worked for somebody for 74 flipping years. There's nothing you can tell this guy. He's going to sit there and say, do you know how many broads I've been with? Do you know how many billions I've touched? Do you know how many people I've had dinner with? Do you know what kind of building? You have no clue who the hell you are to give me advice. I really think he's not a guy that takes advice from anybody. I fully believe that. I don't think he's an advice guy. I think he processes with people. Like I think Hope Hicks was a good process. I think Sarah Huckabee was a good person. I think Kellyanne Conway was a good person to listen to him. But
so he takes it in and uses his own internal mechanism.
I will give one thing. There's one thing I will say. I will give one thing that in this negotiation that he's doing, I think he's starting to realize the power of 5G because what it's going to do to self-driving cars and what it's going to do to speed up technology. And we're going to come up with technology better. And the fact that Huawei, out of 188,000 employees, 75,000 of their employees are in R&D, research and development. We are, this 5G thing's going to be bigger than people realize it. So,
I'm glad you brought this up because I have not focused enough on it. I'm aware of it, right? But I'm actually going to research it because it's a very,
I think it's an important topic. Yeah. Your brain, the way you're wired, like the way you explain Bitcoin, like them, your brain, the way you're wired, if you go down the rabbit hole of Huawei,
I'm going to,
it's going to be like 50 layers. And it's deeper than, by the way, today.
The CEO's daughter, isn't she still under?
She was Meng, the CEO's
in Canada,
daughter.
right?
She got arrested in Canada.
Is she still there or they released?
No, she's back. But Google dropped the contract. There's 90 days. The most important number there is 206 million phones were sold last year, Huawei. They went from 0 to 206 million in 10 years. They've never sold smartphones. They started in 1987. First time they sold a smartphone was 2009. 206 million they sold last year. Out of the 206 million, 105 is in US, 105 is in China, 101 is outside. Google said, we're not letting you use the operating system. So they're going to lose 101 million. So now they're designing their own operating. So they have to be as he's negotiating right now with China and using all of this stuff, he can probably bully Mexico that he's doing a little bit, and Mexico needs America tremendously. China's got 1.5 billion people. And if they all of a sudden come out, and I know Tim Cook was with Trump a few days ago, if they all of a sudden come out and say, listen, we're banning something you're doing as well. If they come and play that same game, and Huawei is projected, according to Business Insider, it's dropping 30 to 40% of revenues this year projected. They did 108 billion last year. They could drop 30 to 40 billion of revenues this year, Huawei. If Huawei's president Ren, who is friends with the prime minister of China, because Ren used to be part of the Chinese government, the military. If he goes there and says, listen, look what just happened here, and they retaliate against Apple, little bit of this bullying tactic Trump is using could backfire on the economy. And then if the economy, like if Hillary wanted to play a manipulative game today, here's what I would be doing if Hillary wanted to play, like the whole dossier she wrote, this is what I'd be doing if Hillary wanted to play a manipulative game. She would go to China, try to figure out a way to convince them to ban any China companies from doing business with Apple, hurting U.S. economy by 20% because Trump can no longer use, look what the economy is doing today versus when I first got started. If Trump cannot use the economy card, he doesn't get reelected.
Yeah. You know what I think? I think my guess is, back in like the days of Russia and the U.S. had this thing called MAD, Mutually Assured Destruction. I have a suspicion that cooler heads are going to prevail here because China doesn't want an economic war because they're trying to elevate so many people up out of poverty. I've been there, right? Back in the 80s, the story was Japan's going to take over the world. Japan, the Rising Sun, the movie, right? And what fucking happened? It was like zombie
There's
banks.
There's a big difference though. But their population is decreasing.
Fair enough. Yeah. Right. But, there's something that tells me that there's a little bit of puffery, like, you heard about the empty cities being built and, not everything is always what meets the eye. And I think that, honestly, both sides need each other.
100%.
So I don't.
There's no question.
I think that my guess is, at the end of the day, maybe I'm wrong. I think cooler heads will prevail. I hope so.
I'll say this final thoughts for you to be thinking about this one. I had a friend, very quiet guy. I was telling the story today when we're driving up here. He was 5'4". 150 pounds.
I love it. I'm fucking bigger than him.
Yeah,
I love the guy already.
He was Saul. His name was Saul. One night, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. We're in the parking lot, and a guy pulls up the car, and he turns off we're living in a bad community at that. He pulls up the car, turns off the lights, points a gun at us. He says, "Hey, Holmes, who are you? What you doing, vato?" And then he looks at me, he says, "Oh shit, what's up, Pat?" And so the guy knew who I was, but he points a gun at my friend Saul. And my friend said, "You don't pull a gun at me. I don't care who you are." He says, "Get out of the car." He says, "No, I say we're good." He says, "No, get out of the car." He says, "I'm not going to punch you while you're in the car." He gets out of the car. He says, "Let me know when you're ready. Just let me know when you're ready." He tells him, warning, "Let me know when you're ready that we're going to fight." He says, "I'm ready." He beats the living shit out of this guy. He's bouncing his head off the ground, scraping his face.
Oh.
Here's the moral of the story. Saul was a quiet guy. Very quiet.
You have to watch
you
out
don't talk to him. China's quiet. That's all I'm saying. So you don't want to get him to the point
peaceful.
where, China, but they're peaceful. But you don't. Like, if you go too much, there's no one that's going to take too much. So all I'm suggesting is maybe a little bit of slow rolling is all I'm saying.
Dude, you're a fucking legend, man.
I appreciate it.
And I'd love you to come back. You're the best.
Oh, man.
All right? It's a pleasure.
Good to be here. Thank you.